Hey knitters, I'm Cheryl Beckrich and I want to welcome you to Knit 13 of the Wise Owl Knits Fibercast. I appreciate you taking the time to watch today, and if it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. On this podcast, I talk about all of the crafty fiber works that I do. Mainly, I'm a knitter and a knitwear designer for Wise Owl Knits, and I do just a tiny bit of crochet if I need a fast baby blanket or an edging. I also do some quilting and some sewing, and may dabble in some other things as time goes by. I recently purchased an antique circular sock machine, and I am trying to learn how to use that, and I need to get myself a big chunk of time, like maybe a weekend when nothing else is going on. Praying for another rainy weekend that I can just slow down and take some time to learn how to use that machine. Today I am going to talk about, I made myself a list. Of course my computer goes blank now. Going to talk about the things that I'm working on, the things that I've finished, also Shark Week. In fact, I think I'll start with Shark Week. Going to talk a little bit about some gardening that I've been doing, and the current audiobook that I'm listening to, comments from watchers from the previous episode, and also about the value of boredom. Well, first we'll go to Shark Week. Shark Week ended yesterday. I hope you all participated in the Shark Week challenge because it was super fun. The premise was cast on July 11th. You had to, before July 11th, you had to email Ann Pinkava at Politically Incorrect Knitters to declare what you were going to be making. So you could cast on at midnight Eastern time on the 11th, really the night of the 10th. You could begin your cast on. You need to finish your project by last night at midnight Eastern time. If you completed your project, then you beat the shark. If you didn't, then you had to frog your project. Deplorable knitter had to frog her project. We watched her do that last night online, so watch Politically Incorrect Knitters and you can watch DK frog her project. I'm sure there were some other people that had to frog too, but it looked like a lot of people finished. I did finish. I made the Stash Buster shawl, or the Stash Buster wrap, which is one of my patterns. It's a free pattern, and it's one of those that it starts out on one end. Oh, I haven't woven my ends in yet. Start off just increasing on one edge every 4 rows until it grows and grows. Just kind of build off of the lace pattern. Once you have basically a third of your yarn left, then you start going the other direction where you decrease. But you decrease every 2 rows rather than every 4 rows. So it makes an asymmetrical triangle and basically uses up all your yarn. So that's what I made. Mine was a 1 skein, just a little bit more than a skein because I didn't weigh my yarn at the right time and I had an extra skein. So I made mine slightly more than 100 grams of yarn. But you can do that. It's one of those things you can make it as big as you want depending on the amount of yarn that you have. So that is what I made. My yarn was Cozy Mountain Lake, and that's from Mystery Mouse Yarns. And I used my shark bag from Delightful Works. So you got extra points if you used shark related items on your project, and you also got extra points if you watched shark related shows, movies, stuff on Discovery Channel. So I'm anxious to see who wins the prizes. I don't think I'm really eligible for the prizes because I was one of the sponsors of the Shark Week Challenge, but I will get some stickers. Everybody who participated gets stickers, so we all win for that. Oh, I forgot to tell you what I'm wearing. This is my second wildflower tee, and stand up a little bit. This one I used 2 skeins of the green, not 2 full skeins, but a little over 1 skein of the green, and that was a yarn from Tuscan Knits, so you know, a rare yarn that we won't get any more of. And then the pink and the purple, oh, dogs are barking, are from Sweet Mountain Crafts. That was a sock set from Carista. So I really am happy with how it turned out. I made another version that you saw earlier out of Knitting McPurley yarn, and I did solids and used 5 colors on that. This I just used 3 colors. So it's a little bit different look. There's not quite as much contrast, but that's okay. I mean, then I don't have 2 sweaters that are exactly the same. So this is also a design that I'm working on right now, and got a lot of the pattern writing done, but I need to get that all finished up and then off to the tech editor. So the wildflower tee, nice fingering weight sweater that is not so hot that you can't wear it in the summertime in Indiana. Now, if you live somewhere else, it might be more of a spring or a fall sweater. Milo and Ziggy next door are barking. I think somebody's in the pool swimming, and Ziggy doesn't like that. He wants to jump in too. Might hear a splash pretty soon. Okay, so I just finished this. I'm working on a Christmas stocking for a doggie. This is for Bella. And Bella is the dog of my niece Jean and her husband Patrick. I recently did a stocking for their new baby, but Bella's got to have one too. So this is my colorwork sampler pattern, and I've added some dog motifs. So I've got the bones, and I've got a picture of Bella here. I've done several with labs, so I will add these 2 motifs to the colorwork sampler pattern. And if you purchased that previously, just send me an email and I'll send the new version off to you once I get that done. Happy to include those for you. Bella's name is going to be up here in duplicate stitch. I've done a afterthought heel, so the heel will be green and it goes in here where this purple yarn is, and the toe will be green too. So I'm almost done. I've got one more motif to go, and that is a holly motif, and it's got 3 colors in it on one row, so not as fun. That happened up here with Bella's chest too. I had the tan, the cream, and the black. So not impossible to do, and I don't mind doing it for a few rows, but I really don't enjoy doing it much beyond a few rows. The next thing that I've been working on diligently is my swerve quilt that's for my son and daughter-in-law. This is a wedding gift. The top is all done. I need to piece together the backing and then take it down south to my friend Heather in Greenwood so that she can work her magic on it and quilt it all up, and then I'll have to add the binding. So the swerve quilt, doing pretty well. I've shown this in previous podcasts, so if you need the pattern name, just check the show notes for that. It is in there. Okay. I've gotten a few acquisitions lately, One is from a sock set from Carista at Sweet Mountain Crafts. I've done her, I don't think it's called Sock of the Month, but you can subscribe and get a sock set each month. And so this was the June set, and it's called Sheep Moth. And not my normal colors, but I really, really like it, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. But a perfect, there's the picture of the sheep moth, a perfect interpretation of the moth in the yarn. So yay Carista, she's very good at that. Then I had won through the Posette Along with Knitting McPurley. I won a gift certificate to her shop, so sorry for the crinkling. I'm going to take these out of the package. I should have done that earlier. Sorry about that. I got 3 DK colors from Knitting McPurley that I don't know for sure what I'm going to do with that. Doesn't that look a lot like this? Am I in a pink and purple mode now? I do not know. Maybe. I'm usually green, and I do have green in here, so we'll see what happens. The purple, or it's actually blue, but it's got a little bit of a purple tinge to it, and that's Fathom. And then Fontaine is the pink. And Morel, one of my favorite foods, Morel. We also had a dog named Morel, so I had to get that. Near and dear to my heart. I've added a few things to my shop beyond knitting patterns. I made a few project bags, and I won't do a lot of these, but they are kind of fun to do, and I've got some ideas for some bucket bags that have owls on them, and not just on the fabric, but applique owls. So these project bags are pretty simple. They are fully lined, and they're drawstring bags. They're pretty large. The fabric is 12 by 12, so big enough to put a nice project in. And all of these, the main fabric is this owl fabric, green and blue and dark green and gold. Owls facing all directions. Most of them have the blue casing for the drawstring and a turquoise interior. But this one is unique, and it's got a heart casing and a heart interior and blue drawstrings. So if you get on there early, the different combinations are on the website, so you can choose what you want. Here's another with the blue casing and the turquoise interior with white drawstrings, or with blue drawstrings, same thing. So those are in my shop now. If you want them, get them quickly. I've sold a few right away, so we'll see what happens. I've also got some of the silicone cords that you can use to try on your circular sweater that you're knitting from the top down. They just slip onto the end of your needles so that you can spread everything out. Also good for when you split for sleeves and you need to put the sleeve stitches on something. You can just stick this to the needle, pull it through, and then remove your needle from the end of it, and the silicone tube just stays where it's supposed to. You don't need to knot it. You can use them over and over again. Much nicer than using waste yarn. Waste yarn works, but you know how it always, the stitch on each end always seems to get super tight, and it's hard to get it back onto the needles when you're ready to work your sleeves. That doesn't happen so much with these tubes. So those are on my website too, both very affordable, and go over to Wise Owl Knits and check those out. Gardening. My husband and I started some seeds indoors, and we've kind of come to the end of spinach season because it's getting hot out now, or has been hot for a while, but we got several weeks of a lot of spinach. Now we are in the zucchini and yellow squash era. I love gardening and I like to do it, but when you get stuff, you get a whole bunch at once, and it's almost more than you can eat. There's just two of us here. We probably plant more than we should, but you never know how the yield is going to be. So I would rather plant more and give some away to friends. I Googled a bunch of zucchini and squash recipes, and I asked my friends on Telegram for recipes. I made a zucchini chocolate cake that was delicious with a ganache frosting. I've done a lot of baking. I do like to bake, but I haven't made a lot of from scratch cakes. So the zucchini cake I made, it turned out great. I made a spice cake, like a carrot cake, and I made that on Sunday, and we had some friends and family over, and we didn't eat any of it because we had another dessert also that was strawberry blueberry shortcake. Again, very delicious, that our friend made, so we ate that. But we took the zucchini cake to our trivia group. We play trivia every Monday night. We took the zucchini cake there, and people were asking for seconds. So we have a fairly big group, but we ate that whole cake, 9x13 pan that night. So I was happy to share that with friends. I've also made zucchini bread. I think I'm going to shred up what zucchini that we're not eating for dinner. Just going to shred it and freeze it so that I can make some cakes or bread later on. We're just beginning to get tomatoes. We have a ton of tomato plants, so hopefully all goes well, and I'll do some tomato canning later in the summer. That would be really fun. So that's our gardening news. I think I did take some pictures, so I'll insert some pictures there or there of our garden and the produce that we're bringing in. Oh, we also got green beans, and we still have more green beans coming. Love fresh green beans. So that's good. Eggplant too. I have picked 3 eggplants so far. I gave one away to a friend. I've given a lot of zucchini away to friends too. So I'm just, if it all stays here, we wouldn't be able to use all of it. So I'm really happy that other people can have some too, as long as they're not just taking it to be nice, but taking it because it's something that they want and that they will eat. All right, I want to move on to the comments, and I have to zip away for a minute because I left the comments inside. Okay, so my first comment is from Sharon. Sharon said, "Enjoyed the podcast, Cheryl. Loved hearing about Carrie's article. Reminds me also of a quote from Elizabeth Elliot. I think I got it from her recent biography, Becoming Elizabeth Elliot, which is a terrific book. She said something like, not an exact quote, instead of fretting over your situation and thinking about what you'd rather be doing, learn to love what needs to be done and see it as from the hand of God." She said, "Thank you for the free shawl. I won't do it for Shark Week, but I will do it sometime." So that brings me to the book that I'm reading now, which is Becoming Elizabeth Elliot and I'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. Also got a comment from Pandemic Knitter. She says, that quilt is beautiful. I can't wait to see it finished. Me too, Beth. I can't wait to see it finished either. And as I said, it's for a wedding gift for my son and daughter-in-law. They're getting married the middle of September, so got to get moving on that. Another comment from Holly at Mystery Mouse. She says, hi Cheryl, I enjoyed this episode. Seeing all the things you're working on, including quilting. I hope to get back to that someday. I also enjoyed the article you read. It's so important to remember that God is... Oh, did I cut that off? No, I didn't. That God is the one in control and He knows what we really need. And that includes problems sometimes. And it does. Everything that we struggle with happens for a reason. And even when it's very difficult to see what that reason is, we can look back later on and know that that we did gain something from it, and God helped us through it. Not that He wants us to have problems, but a lot of times struggles really help us to grow. So, well, from Selfish Knitter, I love how that Wildflowers tee is turning out with the sock set. It looks like it'll be another fun pattern for picking colors. It will be. And, you know, we've all got those single skeins laying around that we can combine in different ways. And we bought them because we love them and we love the colors. So we might as well wear them. Another comment from Susan Smith of Delightful Works. Susan is also test knitting for me right now at the Solomon Poncho, so she is a good little knitter. Susan says, great episode, Cheryl. I love seeing you here each week and enjoy what you've been making. Love that article. Such truth in appreciating the moment, even the unplanned ones. Susan said, looking forward to Shark Week. I'm still undecided. I was going to make a pair of fingerless mitts, but have been having some thumb problems, and I think I'm choosing a smaller project that won't require as much knitting. So, I can't remember what Susan made. I should remember. I know I've seen it. So she participated, Selfish Knitter participated. Got another one from Yarn, Chicken, and Shit. That's Tara. Tara definitely participated, and she says, I'm looking forward to the Wildflower tee also. I am not sure if Tara finished her project. She may have gotten bitten. We'll have to wait and see on that. I haven't checked the Telegram this morning to see who got bit and who beat the shark. That'll be really fun to watch people. It's not that it's fun to watch people frog their projects, because you do feel bad for them, but it's part of the fun of Shark Week. Lastly, from Elizabeth DeYoung, she says, thanks for reading Carrie's article. We were traveling this past week and had a ton of unscripted moments. I'll look for the beauty in that. One other thing that related to that I will share with you is a couple of years ago in 2019, I probably will say this over and over again because it was a super, super fun trip. But in 2019, I went on a 5-week camping trip with my sister and my niece, and one of my niece's friends was there for a little bit. Different people went in and out for part of the trip, but it was basically 3 women, 5 weeks in a little camper. And we did a ton of hiking, and I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, but I wasn't in as good of shape, or I'm just naturally a slower walker and hiker than my sister and niece. So they would get way ahead of me on the trail, and I would just stop and look at the wildflowers, wildflower tea, and take pictures of them. And we did kind of a vlog the whole time where we would talk about what we did each day and post pictures, and I would always post pictures of flowers, and the two of them were kind of rolling their eyes at me the whole time. But the flowers were a big hit for the people that were watching the vlog and our Facebook group. So for me, I love the flowers, but I also sometimes needed to take a little bit of a rest. So take some pretty pictures, look at some beautiful flowers and beautiful scenery, and there's more to the hike than just seeing the view from the top of the mountain. There's good stuff on the way up and the way back too. Ice cream at the end, that's the best thing. Okay, let's see what else we have to say. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is something that I have thought about previously and watched a podcast, not watched a podcast, I think I listened to a podcast, it was a TED Talk years ago about boredom and how being bored actually piques your creativity. The TED Talk was by Manoush Zomorodi, and she had some high-powered tech job where she worked a lot. She and her husband got pregnant. She had a child and was staying home with the child, and the child was very colicky, and the only way that she could soothe her was to put her in the stroller and take her on long walks. I mean, 2, 3, 4-hour walks sometimes. And this woman, Manoush, who had a busy lifestyle, go, worked hard, worked long hours, was constantly doing things, was forced to slow down because of her daughter. And she had, at this point in her career, kind of been feeling like she was losing a little bit of her zing and her creativity, and was unsure of how to get it back, and really had not figured that out at all until she was walking, didn't listen to music just because she had her baby there and she wanted to be cognizant of things going on around her and her baby. So just noticed that as she was walking and just being in the quiet with her own thoughts, her creativity seemed to creep back. And it just is a really interesting premise that I had not thought about before. But when I heard it the first time, I was in a situation where my kids were still younger, and a lot of their friends were in every sport, one after the other, things going on all the time, and it felt like, to me, that their parents were just like the cruise director, taking them from one activity to the other, and there wasn't ever any time for downtime, and they didn't have time to do anything because they were so scheduled. We didn't do that, not because we were against sports or anything else. In fact, it was probably that we were a little bit selfish, that we didn't want to have our weekends all taken up with activities when we would rather slow down and go camping or hunting or just be outdoors, or go to the lake. And so kind of by default, our kids weren't overscheduled and spent a lot of time outdoors and had to figure out things on their own. And they both ended up being really outdoorsy people and very creative people. Maybe that's just luck of the draw, but I think it's good for kids to have time and adults to have time to be bored and to just let your brain rest for a little while, and sometimes that's when you're most creative. I used to say I don't run very much anymore. In fact, I don't really run at all, but I do walk a lot. When I first started running, I was kind of amazed at how, when I was running, I could figure out the answers to problems that I might have been thinking about for a while, and when I was running, things just became clearer. And I think that kind of adds up to the same kind of a thing, where you just, if you slow down and let your brain have some space, then it becomes a little more creative, and you can figure out things that you couldn't figure out when you were just trying to push everything too hard. So, the value of boredom, great for us lazy people. So Manoush also read a book about boredom, and I will link to that in the show notes, and also to her TED Talk. There's another podcast, The Loop, and it's from Catholic Boat, and they were talking about that, which is what reminded me of it. So I will link to them too. And they were specifically talking about kids and how it's good for them to take the time to use their imagination and just figure out what to play, rather than being told what to do or getting on a video game where you just do what the next thing is. It's good to get outside or inside, down in the basement, and just use your imagination. Okay, I told you I'd come back to the book that I'm listening to. I almost exclusively listen to books rather than read books, and I started doing that because I like to do it while I'm walking, even though I probably should turn that off sometimes and just walk in silence and become more creative. But the book that I'm reading is the one that Sharon had recommended, called Becoming Elizabeth Elliot. And it's a biography, not an autobiography, but a biography of this woman who came from a missionary family and became a missionary herself. And I'm not to the point where she is a missionary yet, but it's a very interesting story, because she married another missionary. I think I haven't come to the part where they got married yet, but I think shortly after college, or a few years after college, they got married and went to Ecuador, and he and another missionary were killed by a tribe that was known to be pretty violent towards outsiders or visitors. And then Elizabeth apparently ends up, after her husband has been killed, she and her young daughter end up living with this tribe in Ecuador, and she was a missionary to them for many years, and just a really, really interesting story. The part that I'm at now, she is just beginning college, but in high school, she went to a boarding school, which, I find a little crazy. I don't understand boarding schools at all, because I don't see how you'd want to send your children somewhere else, but I think at the time it may have been a little more accepted. It certainly was for her family, and she was talking about how the kids that were at the boarding school were either MKs, which are missionary kids, or PKs, which are preachers' kids, which is what I am, or NKs, which are normal kids. So, very interesting book. I think I'm going to like it. I know she herself had written some other things, so hopefully I'm down a little bit of a rabbit hole right now, and looking forward to the rest of the book. Thank you so much for watching today. As I said, I know you have a lot of things to watch, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch my Fibercast and spend a little of your time with me. Oh, one more thing. The gals from Knit Night, which are Therese, Liz, and Joe Bob, are starting a knit along. I don't think it's super structured like Shark Week was, but it's a knit along for the ranunculus sweater, which I haven't knit, but it is kind of an interesting pattern because you can use any yarn, any size needles, and it's kind of a recipe rather than a pattern, but tells you what to do to make it fit yourself, and you can fit yourself snugly or with negative ease or positive ease or somewhere in between. And you can use lace weight yarn or worsted weight yarn or fingering or sport or whatever you want to use, you can use. And it's been a super popular pattern for quite a few years now. So the three of them are going to knit the ranunculus. If you want to join them, head on over to the Knit Night podcast and check them out. So as I was saying, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. I love your comments, so leave me some nice comments or some constructive criticism, because there's plenty of room for that too. And like and subscribe if you want to come back and see me again. You can like even if you don't want to subscribe. But if you want to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you next week. The week after that, I'm going to be probably not podcasting because of a trip, but I hope to be back next week. See you then. Bye.